So, the first Filipino political thinker na i-discuss namin ay si Jose P. Laurel. So, si Jose P. Laurel ay isang Filipino lawyer, politician, and jurist na naging presidente ng Pilipinas noong panahon ng Japanese noong World War II. So, he is considered as one of the political philosopher ng Pilipinas at marami rin siyang naging contribution sa bansa tulad na lang ng formation of the Second Republic of the Philippines at sa present, yung kanyang mga ideas ay nagagamit din ng mga social scientists. Tapos, yung kanyang contribution tulad ng relevance ng citizenship and nationalism to form Filipinism is nagagamit din at present times. His ideas mainly focused on man and government, pero tinalakay din niya ang ibang specific topics tulad ng proper relationship between the branches of government, sa pagitan ng national and local government, sa pagitan ng church and state, sa pagitan ng administration and their opposition, pati na yung ideas between conservatism and radicalism, and among the states of the world, as well as the role of morality in government law and politics. Isa sa pinaka-main contribution ni Laurel sa Philippine political thought is yung concept of Filipinism. So, ang Filipinism is formed by two basic concepts, which is the citizenship and nationalism. When we say citizenship, related siya sa citizens within the country. When we say citizens, ito yung mga taong nag-e-enjoy na kanilang political and civil rights under sa isang bansa. It's either pinanganak ka sa bansang yon or nag-undergo ka sa process para maging isang citizen ng bansang yon. Another concept na bumubuo sa Filipinism ay yung nationalism. So, when we say nationalism, ito yung binubuo ng mga political, social, and economic system na naglalayong i-promote ang interest ng isang nation, halimbawa ng Pilipinas, or ng isang ethnic group. So, ang pinaka-aim ng nationalism is to gain and maintain self-governance or full sovereignty over a group's homeland. Therefore, ang nationalism na ideology ay naglalayon na ang isang bansa dapat mapamunuan niya kanyang sarili at they are free from unwanted outside interference, which is linked sa concept ng self-determination. So, with the Filipinism as a combination siya ng concept of citizenship and nationalism, therefore, we can conclude na yung pinaka-meaning niya ay ang pakikipaglaban para sa lupang sinilangan ng isang tao with patriotism na nangangahulugang pagmamahal para sa country yung pinakapangunahing elemento. So, si Laurel, with his concept of Filipinism, naniniwala siya na in order to achieve self-development, kailangan daw ng bansa ng passion from its citizen. So, during that time, yung Pilipinas is under a colony at naniniwala siya na during that time, hindi natin ma-achieve ang development kung aasa lang tayo sa mga colonizers. So, in order daw for the Philippines to find its true destiny and development, kailangan nating ma-develop with a little help from the outsiders as possible. That's the concept of Filipinism according to Laurel. Another political thought na pinaniniwalaan ni Laurel ay yung pagkakaugnay ng gobyerno, ng mga tao, at ng Panginoon in terms of creation. He believed that if God created man, so God created government this time. Man is the creator and the government is the creation. So, parang sa quote na yon, if God created man, so man are expected to serve God. So, kapag kinreate naman ng man ang government, then the government itself is expected to serve the man or the people. Another political thought na kinontribute ni Laurel sa country is yung concept of good governance. So, according to him, a good governance must possess a just government, an honest government, and an efficient government. So, kapag daw yung mga characteristic na yon ay na-achieve, so, it is geared toward recognition and dignification of human person. So, first characteristic daw ng good governance ay yung just government. When we say just government, yung government daw natin is sumusunod sa rule of law. When we say rule of law, lahat ng tao within its nation, kung kahit anong kasarian, katayuan sa lipunan, is mananagot sa batas. So, ang just government is nag-e-employ ng rule of law for the rights and liberties of the people. Another characteristic ng good governance ay yung honest government. Kapag sinabi nating honest government, parang yung government, pinapanatili nila yung paniniwala and pag-asa ng mga tao sa gobyerno by being honest sa kanilang mga citizens. So, yung mga officials ng government na to are trustworthy and sincere sa pagpa-perform ng kanilang duties and obligations sa mga tao. Last characteristic ng good governance according to Laurel is yung efficient government. When we say efficient government, yung pinaka-function ng government daw ay ang magbigay ng protection and basic needs and necessities para sa kanilang mga citizens. That three characteristic ng good governance, according to Laurel, if na-implement siya within the country, ma-achieve natin ang success and prosperity sa bansa. Another political thought na kinontribute ni Laurel ay yung power and good governance. According to Laurel, under the concept of power and good governance, yung isang democratic system of government, like in the Philippines, yung power ng system of government na to is nanggagaling sa mga tao. In return daw, naniniwala siya na ang essence ng lahat ng democratic government is to surrender daw lahat ng individual power to the legal and moral power of the whole represented by the state. According to this concept din, yung government daw ay may tungkuling suportahan at protektahan ang best interest and welfare ng kanilang mga nasasakupan through the power na binigay sa kanila ng mga tao. Another political concept na binahagi ni Laurel is yung concept that officialdom must practice morality. So, when we say officialdom, ito yung mga taong nakaupo sa government. So, according to Jose Laurel, dapat daw ay mag-practice din sila ng morality. Because according to him, a government without morality is gangsterism or banditry. So, parang yung government daw, if hindi sila nag-practice ng morality, parang nagkakaroon lang ng abuse of the power given to them by the people. So, according to him, kung ang power daw na binigay sa government is properly and appropriately executed, magpo-provide siya ng adequate defense, security, and opportunity to people, kung saan, which will lead to concrete expression and recognition to human dignification. Another political thought or concept na kinontribute ni Laurel is yung popular government. So, according to him daw, ang basic philosophy ng popular government is yung state or nation ay nag-exist siya for the individual or the people and not the individual for the state. According to him, yung popular government daw ay parang 3-story building. So, the 3-story building is binubuo siya ng constitution, officialdom, and altar. So, sa pinakababa, which is parang foundation, is yung altar, which is the faith of the people. So, with the faith of the people, nagkakaroon ng mga officialdom or yung mga nakaupo sa government. Yung mga nakaupong sa government na yun is magkakaroon ng power to reinforce laws na bubuo sa constitution. So, the three of them are interconnected. So, inahalin tulad ni Jose P. Laurel ang popular government sa republicanism. So, when we say republicanism, ito yung body ng government kung saan yung representatives ng mga tao ay pagpaprotect doon sa best interest ng mga taong nagluklok sa kanila sa posisyon na yon. Inihalin tulad niya ang republicanism sa democracy. So, according to him, yung essence ng republicanism is change, while sa democracy naman, yung pinaka-ultimate control daw nito is yung people possess power over the government, which secure its popular character. He also compared representative democracy and republicanism. According to him, republicanism ay may execute through democracy, whereas yung true concept naman ng democracy ay nag-emphasize not only sa karapatan ng mga tao within its country, but also sa kanilang mga obligations. Sa isang democratic system ng government, yung power ay nanggagaling sa mga tao. With that, kinunclude ni Laurel na ang pinakapangyarihan ng isang government is nanggagaling sa kapangyarihan ng bawat isang tao na pinagsama-sama through voting. And with that, nabubuo yung mga officials ng government which will represent the whole state. According to him, yung government na nabuo through the people ay bound to support and protect the best interest and welfare, and they should govern through the power bestowed upon them. So, yung Republican or representative democracy ay nag-uphold siya, una, ng political democracy kung saan it is the government of people and by the people for the people. Then next is yung social democracy kung saan sa concept na yon, all men are created equal. Then last is yung economic democracy kung saan kailangang kagawa ng most and best of man's power and opportunities, which refers to social justice. So, according to Laurel, yung best form of government ay ang state socialism or progressive socialism. So, under ng government na yon, ang bawat isa ay may karapatang i-identify ang kanilang freedom according to their own will. And that government is supported politically by democracy and economically by socialism. The last political concept na tatalakayin under Jose P. Laurel is yung constitutionalism and government. So, for Laurel, Constitution is the highest law of free nation. Ang Constitution daw is parang yung pahintulot ng mga tao na pamunuan sila ng government for articulation of their ideas, for achievements through proper means of their needs and aspiration. So, naniniwala din si Laurel na ang sa social reality kung saan nagkakaroon daw ng constant change sa mundo. So, in return, yung constitution natin is kailangang ding magbago as time goes by. He believed that the constitution is dead if it fails to adjust to the needs of a changing and expanding world.
Ang sunod naman na Filipino political thinker ay si Luis Daruc. Pinanak siya noong June 21, 1913 at namatay noong May 4, 2005. He was a Filipino political figure, a rebel, a peasant leader, and a hero. Daruc was born of peasant stock in the barrio of Santa Monica, San Luis, Pampanga. Nung kabataan niya, sinabi ng mga kabaryo niya na he was a peculiar one. Kasi yung mga kaedaran niya, mas pinipiling maglaro. Pero siya, mas prefer niya na magpakwento sa grandfather niya about the stories of the Katipuneros and how they fought for our independence from Spain. He was influenced by Pedro Abad Santos, whom Luis regarded as a true socialist. Sinabi rin ni Luis na in my youth, The Christian faith dominated my spiritual life, but the landlord dominated the material life I knew. Dahil nga mahirap sila at magsasaka lang sila, yung lupang tinataniman nila, hindi sa kanila. So, binabayaran pa nila sa landlord nila. At bawat palay na maaani nila, binabayaran pa nila ulit yun sa landlord. Naniniwala siya sa civil liberties and democratic participation. He sought and won a seat in Congress and was ultimately ejected for opposing parity rights for Americans. Dinevote niya yung buhay niya to peasants' cause. And above all, he confounded and led the most successful resistance movements against the Japanese Imperial Army noong World War II, which is the Hukbalahap o Hukbong Bayan laban sa Hapon. Hukbalahap movement. Nagsimula yung movement nito as an anti-Japanese resistance force noong 1942 at eventually became a formidable mass movement to address peasant grievances in Central Luzon. Taruk and his men went underground. By 1950, his guerrillas controlled most of Central Luzon, including 2 provincial capitals. Political ideology of Luis Taruk. Peasant ideology. Isa si Luis Taruk of the 20th century's most prominent peasant revolutionaries. Ginamit niya yung peasant belief niya and Filipino cultural mores para i-oppose hindi lang yung military power of the United States-backed Philippine government and economic juggernaut of American client capitalism, kundi pati na rin yung deceptiveness ng mga former Bolshevik comrades niya sa inner sanctum of the Philippine Communist Party. In Reynaldo Ileto's Passion and Revolution, Popular Movements in the Philippines, sinabi niya that peasant epistemology became the central elements ng Philippine revolutionary ideology. Sunod naman ay socialism. Born to a poor family, Taruk's membership in Aguman Ding Maldang Tala Pagobra and the Partido Socialista, both founded by Kapampangan intellectual Pedro Abad Santos, deepened his understanding on social injustice. Socialism for him is more relevant because capitalism has reached its apex. It will begin to dissolve or save itself through a third world war to control the whole world through oil and the subservience of small countries like our country. Taruk was delighted when Cardinal Sin stated very clearly that we must be for peace. Communism. They wrongly called the Hukbalahap a communist party, which was not true, according to Taruk. The movement against the Japanese militarism and fascism was not a communist army. The movement had about 3% communist leaders in their ranks, but they had a continuing struggle among themselves that they are too leftist, too adventuristic, too opportunistic, hoping to seize power. When Taruk and his men were in the mountains, they had quarrels among themselves. Taruk was for the democratic process, slow but gradually propelled by understanding, compassion, and love. But with others, it was prompted by hate, anger, and vindictiveness. At Sabi niya that is the difference between his attitude at yung communist attitude. Nationalism. Nationalism was by far the most vexing feature of Taruk's ideology. As early as 1951, American scholars like Russell Fifield had already identified Taruk as the most nationalistic of the present Hukbalahap leaders, despite his belief in communism. Yung catchphrase ni Taruk na, "I am a Filipino first and a socialist second," he would frequently assert before going on to explain that yung nationalism daw could be a means of overcoming class or regional identities. Taruk's understanding of nationalism is in accordance with what he had learned as a child in schools run by American teachers. The principal society was the Filipino nation, not the underclass. His entire political career was characterized by efforts to reach out and cooperate with progressive members of the professional and land-holding classes. Peaceful revolution. The mass media can help the mass leaders to bring about a consensus of good-meaning Filipinos so that by peaceful means, the system would change. Naniniwala siya that by peaceful revolutionary unit without violence, magagawa natin yon. The poor are being driven by hate and bitterness, according to him. They want to eliminate the rich who have been oppressing them. The rich are also prisoners of the system. They will have security, peace of mind, and peace in the countryside if they help the poor uplift their lives.
My intention or objectives as the commander-in-chief of the Hawk movement and then as national leader of the peasants of the Philippines was to see a truly broad democratic participation of the masses to bring about land reform in our country, to bring about a truly independent nation, but maintain our close friendship with that good America I have always admired, but continue our struggle against some carpetbaggers or misguided American officials coming here whom I believe did not represent the true America I admired. So if that was my intention, land reform, good government, and a truly democratic Philippines, I'm now wondering why I suffered so much like that, including my people or my members to be misunderstood and persecuted.
Political thoughts of Guia de Guia. So, yung political thoughts ni Guia de Guia, nakabase at ginamit niyang source yung concept ng kapwa ni Virgilio G. Enriquez. Si Virgilio G. Enriquez ay kilala bilang founder ng Psikolohiyang Pilipino. He proposed a concept of personhood centered on the core value expressed in the word kapwa. So, yung Psikolohiyang Pilipino, nagmula siya or bunga ito ng karanasan, kaisipan at oryentasyong Pilipino. Tapos, yung core value nito ay yung tinatawag na kapwa o shared identity. It encompasses the entire range of psychological phenomena from awareness to motives to behaviors that are found in other cultures, including the West. but with emphasis on the Filipino orientation. So, ayun, included sa pinag-aaralan ng psikolohiyang Pilipino ang mga behaviors mula sa iba't ibang cultures, but mas binibigyan nitong pansin or diin yung mga pananaw o kaisipang Pilipino. Thus, it is fundamentally about fostering a national identity and consciousness, social involvement, as well as language and culture through the lens of the Filipino experience. So, this is used in understanding the local language, unraveling Filipino characteristic, and explaining them through the eyes of the native Filipino. Sinasabi na the Western theorists have dominated and continue to do so the way the Filipino experience is analyzed and interpreted. Example nito ay yung pagkakaiba ng definition natin sa word na bahala na. In the West, this is usually defined as fatalistic, sign of resignation at withdrawal. However, sa indigenous psychology o sa psikolohiyang Pilipino, it is far from giving up. It means determination and suggests perseverance, encourage o lakas ng loob as well as creativity to solve a problem. So, sinasabi na yung pagkakaroon natin ng opposing views ay byproduct o resulta ng pagpaprioritize natin ng isang viewpoint over another. Next is kapwa. This is defined as shared identity. The other person is also yourself. Ito ay sinasabi na unity of the self and the other. Tinatrato dito ng isang individual yung ibang tao na hindi iba sa kanya dahil sa pananaw niya na equal sila. Ito rin ay yung core value ng Filipino psychology o psikolohiyang Pilipino. So, yung kapwa may core values siya. Yung una ay yung pivotal interpersonal value which has the value of pakikiramdam. Sunod ay yung linking socio-personal value which has the value of kagandahang loob. Ang sunod naman ay yung accommodative personal value which has hiya, utang na loob, pakikisama at pakikipagkapwa. Yung sunod ay yung confrontative service value which has bahala na, lakas ng loob at pakikibaka. At yung huli ay yung societal values which has karangalan, katarungan at kalayaan. So yung mga values na to, ito yung bumubuo o nagde-define sa character ng isang Pilipino. Yung concept ng kapwa, sinasabi na ito ay inseparably linked with the psikolohiyang Pilipino's cultivation of methods of data collection. Sa pagko-collect kasi ng data, importante doon na nakikipag-ugnayan o interact ang isang researcher sa kanyang participants. Tapos, sinasabi na every level of interaction included siya sa concept ng pakikipagkapwa. Yung concept ng kapwa, may 8 siyang components na nahahati sa dalawang uri. Yung una ay yung ibang tao o other people. Binubuo ito ng pakikitungo, pakikisalamuha, pakikilahok, pakikibagay at pakikisama. Yung sunod naman ay yung hindi ibang tao o one of us na binubuo naman ng pakikipaglagayang loob, pakikisangkot at pakikipagkaisa. So, yung pakikipagkapwa, it also means accepting and dealing with the other person as an equal. Yun nga, it is humanness at the highest level, for it implies a unique moral obligation to treat one another as equal fellow beings. Pakikipagkapwa also in principle rejects any actions that may be detrimental or harmful to other person. Thus, kapwa is an inner principle of shared goodness. Next is the 5 culture that exist in the society. So, may dalawang klase ng culture. Ito yung fear-based and trust-based. Sa fear-based, tingin nito ay every person has a separate being or is an isolated self. This develop manipulative and aggressive attitude of the people, and it excels in fighting, military, and security skills. Sa trust-based naman, yung lahat ng tao ay one at dito pumapasok yung concept ng kapwa. This culture have a strong sense of community too. Dinadevelop din nito yung harmonious and cooperative attitude ng mga tao, and it excels in sharing, collaboration, and partnerships, including respect for ecological balance. So, under ng fear-based culture ay yung culture of power. Yung culture of power, it is a culture attached to power and privilege, control, and domination. Another culture na saklaw ng fear-based ay yung culture of wealth. Yung culture of wealth naman, dito ay attached sa wealth at material goods. Then sa trust-based naman, kabilang dito yung culture of shared being. This culture is devoted to the search for wisdom, creativity, love, and sharing the culture of devotion to a higher cause. Dito rin kasama yung culture of simple needs. Yung people naman dito ay concerned sila mainly sa pagsasatisfy ng kanilang basic needs. Yung panglimang culture ay yung tinatawag na ethnicity or culture as creative construct. Ito daw yung core culture ng isang society. Through time, yung society, nagko-construct sila ng mga paniniwala nila or kaisipan o orientation, then ito yung magre-result sa ethnicity or core value ng mga tao. Next is the root cause of Philippine underdevelopment. Anything indigenous became a source of embarrassment and uneasiness after centuries of being regarded as backward and inferior by the white colonizers. Nag-produce ito ng self-contempt and made many Filipinos to have low self-confidence about their own culture. This condition affects all of us, but most especially the ruling elites or oligarchs, dahil na-influence sila masyado at naging addicted or greedy sa culture of power and culture of wealth. So, yung pagiging underdeveloped ng Philippine society, ang isang cause niya ay yung chronic loss of Filipino self-esteem due to centuries of colonizations and miseducation. Isa pang dahilan ay yung absence in governance ng principles of our core culture and ethnicity. So, yung ilang negative qualities of Filipino ethnicity na na-influence sa atin ng ibang culture ay yung grab mentality, abusive family dynasties, and rampant corruption. So, itong mga to, sinisisi ng ilan sa culture kaya ganito ang estado ng Pilipinas. But the truth is, it is actually because of the neglect and ignorance of our culture in government policy making that caused these problems. Yung culture kasi natin ay kapwa-based. It is built on the highly spiritual concept o pakikipagkapwa, pagpapakatao, delikadesa, and transcending narrow self-interest or kagandahang loob. So in short, mabuti yung concept nito at hindi nakakasama or magdudulot ng ikapapahamak ng iba. So what we need to is a culturally rooted governance. If the core culture of our people accept that we are all one, that all things are interconnected, then our highest value will be connectedness, sharing, spirituality, pakikipagkapwa, kagandahang loob at pakikiramdam. Our shared cultural heritage is a set of philosophical and ideological coherent set of premises and corresponding value orientations resulting in well-defined skills and patterns of behavior that can make us truly proud. Among these are the superior linguistic and communication skills, expressiveness, prowess in performing arts, nurturing qualities, excellence in service industry, and passion for education. Three main value orientation engendered by core value of kapwa. So, ito yung mga kaugaliang nabuo o na-produce because of the core value kapwa. First, Filipinos love to connect, especially to people. Among the most relational in the world, Filipinos are hardly alone. Their eagerness for connections make them number one in social networking tulad ng Facebook, texting, and Twitter. Filipinos like to feel connected to the world, God, and nature, but most of all to people at walang gustong maiwan. Next is, Filipinos like to experience the multidimensional wholeness of life. So, yung mga Filipinos, they do not like a fragmented view on life. Example ay kapag may nakilala or usap sila, hindi sila nakokontento na alam lang nila ay yung name ng tao. He would also inquire about his work, hometown, relative, and even salary. Last is, Filipinos are highly participatory. In Filipino society, everybody is a participant or performer. The Filipino also always demand for collective and equal participation in decision-making process. Hindi iisa ang nagdedesisyon sa lahat upang magkaroon ng pagkakapantay-pantay at walang lamangan, pagbibigayan, or sharing. Sa konsepto ng kapwa, yung mga tao ay equal in principle and nobody has a right to regard himself as above or more important than others.